Elijah has just won the most spectacular showdown in the Bible. He called fire from heaven on Mount Carmel, proving God's power over nature in front of hundreds. And yet, almost immediately after, God tells him something shocking. I'm not in the fire. God contradicts his own prophet's greatest victory. That tension is the key to one of the most profound theological ideas in the Hebrew Bible. To understand why, we need to go back to the desert and to Moses. After Carmel, Jezebel threatens to kill Elijah. He flees into the wilderness and spends 40 days and 40 nights journeying to Mount Horeb. Horeb and Sinai are two names for the same mountain in different biblical traditions. And this is the mountain where God gave Moses the covenant. Same mountain, same duration. The biblical authors are casting Elijah as a second Moses, returning to the origin point at a moment of crisis. These parallels aren't coincidence. They're literary architecture. 40 days on the mountain, hiding in a rocky cleft, God passing by, a divine commission, flight from a hostile ruler. Every detail mirrors the Moses narrative. The writers want us to see Elijah standing in Moses' footsteps at the place where it all began, and Elijah is in despair. He tells God, I alone am left. He believes the covenant is broken. Then comes the theophany, a visible or audible manifestation of God, and it unfolds as a series of negations. God tells Elijah to stand on the mountain. First, wind. A great and powerful wind tears the mountains apart and shatters rocks. But the Lord was not in the wind. Then an earthquake. The ground splits and trembles, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. Then fire, flames consume the mountainside, but the Lord was not in the fire. And then after the fire, a still small voice. Some translations say a soft murmuring sound. Others call it an awesome vocal silence. Here's the theological punch. Wind, earthquake, fire, these are the classic attributes of storm gods like Baal. Baal doesn't just control the storm. Baal is the storm. He is the lightning, the rain, the thunder. On Mount Carmel, Elijah beat Baal at his own game by summoning fire from heaven. It looked like proof that Israel's God was a bigger, better storm god. Now on Sinai, God delivers the corrective. And that's not who I am. I send the fire on Carmel. I control these forces, but I am not contained by them. Don't confuse me with a nature deity. The Sinai scene deliberately undercuts the Carmel triumph to make a deeper point. But the silence isn't the end of the story. It's a beginning. Because what God says next changes everything. The command after the silence, go back. Anoint Hazael as king of Aram. Anoint Jehu as king of Israel. Anoint Elisha as your successor. God doesn't reveal himself in cosmic fireworks. He acts through historical events, the rise and fall of dynasties, political upheaval, the moral arc of a nation. Elijah cannot stay on the mountain. The prophet's role is engagement, not retreat. This distinction matters. Baal is a fertility god. He is the rain cycle, the seasonal pattern of growth and death. Worship Baal, and you participate in nature's rhythms through ritual. Israel's God operates on a different plane entirely. He doesn't cycle. He moves forward through covenants, through history, through the choices of nations and individuals. The still, small voice is one of the most radical theological claims in the ancient world. In a culture surrounded by gods who were the storm, the river, the sun, Israel's writers insisted their God was beyond all of it. Elijah's story ends with one of the Bible's most vivid scenes. A fiery chariot appears in a whirlwind and carries him to heaven. He never dies. This becomes the foundation for the belief that Elijah will return as the harbinger of the Messiah, a belief that echoes through Judaism and into the New Testament. But before he ascends, thus, the prophetic cloak passes to Elisha. Elisha picks up Elijah's mantle, literally, and inherits a dual mandate, political agent and popular wonder worker. As political agent, Elisha secretly sends an associate to anoint Jehu as king, just as Samuel had anointed Saul and David generations earlier. Jehu then launches a bloody revolution, massacring Ahab's entire house and every Baal worshipper in Samaria. This is the violent triumph of the Yahweh-only party, the faction in Israel insisting on exclusive worship of their God. The prophet doesn't just speak truth to power. The prophet makes and breaks kings. Elisha orchestrates a coup that reshapes the northern kingdom. As popular holy man, Elisha performs miracles for ordinary people in crisis. He floats an iron axe head that fell in a river. He raises a dead child. He multiplies food, 20 loaves feeding 100 men. He heals Naaman the leper. These are stories of popular religiosity, of people turning to wonder-working charismatics when they need help. Elisha isn't a lesser copy of Elijah. He expands the prophetic role, more politically active, more embedded in everyday life, more directly serving the people. So what's the pattern that emerges from all of this? Elisha's miracles reappear almost beat for beat in the gospel accounts of Jesus. 20 loaves feeding 100 becomes 5 loaves feeding 5,000. Raising a dead child becomes raising Lazarus and Jairus' daughter. Healing Naaman's leprosy becomes Jesus healing lepers. Multiplying oil for a widow becomes turning water to wine. The gospel writers knew these stories. They shaped their accounts of Jesus to echo the prophetic wonder-working tradition. The pattern is deliberate. From Elijah and Elisha, a 3-part prophetic template emerges that will define prophecy in Israel going forward. First, theological corrective, challenging false worship. Second, political action, making and breaking kings. Third, popular miracle working, meeting people's immediate needs. And at the center of it all, right, the radical claim from Sinai, the divine is encountered not in the loudest moment, but in the quietest one. Not in nature, but in history. Not in spectacle, but in silence.